Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. The IPO auction has finished, I think, a couple of days ago now, and this is my video. I think probably part one out of two. I'll be reviewing the squads of five of the franchises out of 10 in this video, and then I'll be uploading another video soon, probably tomorrow, reviewing the rest of the teams. And the format of this video will be that there'll be three slides devoted to each team. The first of three slides being the listing the potential 11 that I thought that if teams went for the players that I thought they could go for, then it will be the same slide that you saw from my previous video. And then the second slide being the players that they bought and the prices they were bought for. And the third one being the 11s that they could make with their final squads as it is. So getting into things, for the Chennai Super Kings, this was my predicted potential 11 that you saw from the previous video. And I thought Sam Curran would have gone between the 11 and 13 crore bracket. In the end, he went for 18.5, but I still thought teams with 20 and a bit crores could have actually, like CSK or Mumbai Indians, could have bidded, went all out for Sam Curran, even at 18.5. And Riley Meredith in the end was unsold at his base price of 1.5 crores, but I thought they could have even gone for Wayne Parnell, who I don't think there's been a bowler in T20 cricket especially who has improved so much from a reputation that they had before. I think that he, for the majority of his career, has kind of had the reputation of being erratic. And I think in the last year or so, he's improved so much in terms of his consistency when bowling up front and at the death. And he, in my view, would have got into a lot of the IPL sides. So I thought, in terms of overseas bowlers, getting Sam Curran and Wayne Parnell could have been achieved even if Sam Curran was bought for 18.5 crores per 10, and that would have been a 19.25 crores. I thought Ajinkya Rahane was a very good signing for 50 lakh. That would have been 19.75, and pretend if they bought Nishant Sindhu, who I think is an all-rounder who bowls spin. That would have been 20.35 out of 20.45, which would have been just under the limit. Now, as you can see here, what they did was they kind of went the other way and bought Ben Stokes for 16.25 crores and Kyle Jamieson for 1 crore. The second of which I'm confused of why they bought him even for 1 crore for Kyle Jamieson. I think they shouldn't have even gone for him in the first place, let alone at 1 crore. I think that, in my view, like I said, Wayne Parnell, who, yes, in terms of what he offers with the bat, he hasn't really offered much with the bat for the past while, even though there's theoretically that option where if he plays at number 8. But with the ball, he certainly has improved fairly recently in the last year or so, and when he was playing in that series against India in India, he impressed, and also in the T20 World Cup, especially against India, I thought he was very good. So I think that going for him, I would have been happy with signing him, and he would have come at a cheaper price as well. And instead, they've signed a guy who hasn't played T20 cricket for the last 2 years. There's a difference between Kyle Jamieson not getting into his international side, for the 2021 T20 World Cup or the 2022 T20 World Cup. I think his side got to the finals in the former and the semi-finals in the latter. I think Riley Meredith does get into his side. I don't know why they're not playing him, but for Kyle Jamieson, he clearly doesn't. And that's why I thought, take 1 crore on a guy who hasn't played T20s for 2 years when there's other people better. I don't know why they've done that. And I think I know why they've... On Ben Stokes, I think it could have gone either way, Ben Stokes or Sam Curran. I would have preferred Curran, and I think you have to think of the ifs in this lineup, and while thinking of the ifs in this lineup, the batting lineup, then you understand why they why they went for Ben Stokes, and that is, if you had to rely on a potentially rusty Ambati Raider, we've been saying this for the last few seasons. I think he has given satisfactory performances, but there's always that precaution as if players who don't play cricket apart from the IPL, what would they do as they get older? MS Dhoni, what will he do if once again, in his 40s now and he hasn't played cricket apart from the IPL? And Shivam Dube, who showed glimpses early on in the previous season but didn't really do too much with the bat. So if you got those three, I think they thought, right, what if those three don't fire like we want them to? Let's get Ben Stokes. But the reason why I'm thinking even that's precarious is because you've got the half century and the century he scored for the Rajasthan Royals in IPL 2020. And you've got the 2 innings, one against the 42 against Sri Lanka, the 52 against Pakistan, but it's a completely different situation to what he'll face in most occasions. And those two, he's not been in form for T20s for a while now. He effectively hasn't done anything in the format for, even if you look at since that Rajasthan Royals 100, he hasn't done anything in the format for quite a while, at least 2 years now. And overall, he hasn't really done anything in the format for the last 5 years. So I think that 16.25 crores for him, you are going on reputation. I think you are going on the fact that under Dhoni, he was so good in 2017. Playing under MS Dhoni, playing at CSK improves players. You've seen a drastic improvement in Mahesh Deekshana, like I covered in the previous video. They would be banking on Ben Stokes to do that, and hence that's probably the reason why they've gone for him. A marquee signing, yes, I understand why they would have gone for him based on maybe the few ifs that I mentioned before, but that being Ben Stokes' form is a huge if as well. So that's why I would have gone for Sam Curran. Now, if things did work out, and you've got potentially, if you wanted to play a Wayne Parnell had they bought him as well, then what you would have ended up with Ruturaj Gaikwad, Ajinkya Rahane opening the batting, Moeen Ali 3, Ambati Raidu 4, Ravindra Jadeja 5, you got Shivam Dube 6, Sam Curran 7, Deepak Chahar 8, and potentially you could even play MS Dhoni at 10, ask him to be the captain and be the keeper, and still have a fairly good side. You could play Wayne Parnell 9, MS Dhoni 10, and if you wanted to play Mahesh Deekshana, you could play him, or you could play, if you wanted to free up a overseas slot with the bat, you could play Prashant Sawanki or Nishant Sindhu and play Devon Conway, or if you wanted to play a seamer on more kind of batting friendly tracks, maybe something like a Wankhede Stadium where it's not a great thing for spinners, then not a great venue for spinners, then you'd play the fourth seamer in Mukesh Chaudhary. So that would have been a more compelling building attack than I think the current one, which hugely does rely on Deepak Chahar and Mahesh Deekshana, I think. And I hope Deepak Chahar plays a full season this time and also doesn't miss games for India as well. And given his injury situation, we'll have to wait and see. This attack is far less compelling than the other one. The batting does look good, yes, but even then, if Ben Stokes doesn't fire like we've seen for the past few years in this format, then where will they go? You're not getting the value for the 16.25 crores. So that is something that they will be thinking about. And the problem is you've got Kyle Jamieson, Matisha Patirana, who lately haven't been playing in their national sides in T20 cricket. Matisha Patirana very briefly before he was replaced, and then you've got Kyle Jamieson who hasn't played a T20 game in 2 years. So you've not exactly got the bowling that you can rely on in that sense, as well as an overseas bowling options, and let's see what they do. It's just faith because, like I said, Ben Stokes under Dhoni from before, what CSK does to players, that is the only faith, but the bowling is looking slightly precarious in my view. Let's see how they go. Now Sunrisers Hyderabad, I actually thought I got this fairly spot on, especially that top 5 is exactly the top 5 they have in the 11 that I've drafted in the last slide. Mike Agarwal for 8.25, Harry Brook for 13.25, but Adil Rashid for 2 crores rather than 5 crores. And they bought effectively Henry Klassen instead of Jason Holder, but once again 5.25 rather than 8. And also, if you look at the IPO T20 site, then it actually says, I think, 6.55 or something remaining out of 42.25. Roughly about the amount, 7 point something and 6 point something that I've got here. So it's balanced out. The books have balanced out, like I said, and they didn't get Riley Meredith in the end, and he wouldn't have cost 5 crores either. I'm surprised teams haven't gone for Shashank Singh, like I said in my previous video, in terms of finishing options. You can't get too much better, I think, in terms of impressive domestic finishes than him. I think it's off the top of my head. It's interesting to see whether others have emerged in the domestic season over a while. They've already got someone who, looking at his stats, seems a more compelling option in terms of domestic players in Vivrant Sharma. But I still would have bought Shashank Singh to play number 6, simply because that one cameo against the Gujarat Titans was more than what Abdul Samad has shown in his entire IPL career so far. But actually, 3 signings, I'm not surprised they've made. They've made those signings. And Akil Hussain, I get as a backup for Washington Sundar, but at the same time, if you have to play him instead of him if Washington Sundar gets injured, then you probably have to lose out on that number 8 batting option and play Mayank Markande instead of Adil Rashid. So that's something they wouldn't want to happen. And it just shows, well, if you look at their overseas seamers, if once again, if you have to play Markande instead of Adil Rashid, then you have to play an overseas seamer pretend instead of Natarajan if he does get injured, which I hope he doesn't. You could play an Indian seamer, yes, they've got the likes of Kartik Tyagi, but if you wanted to play an assured like a Wayne Parner, who they haven't got, they've got Fazalak Farooqi, Marco Janssen. Fazalak Farooqi is, he hasn't really, I think, he was in the low 140s. There is something there, but in terms of the output, he hasn't really shown too much in terms of a phase of the innings that you think he could bowl the death, but he does go for runs regardless, and Marco Janssen goes for a lot of runs at the death. So I would like to see that outright kind of bowl the overseas assured option. I think if in retrospect, if you instead of Fazalak Farooqi, if you'd got someone like a Wayne Parner, pretend if you released Fazalak Farooqi and then got a Wayne Parner, they had 6.55 crores remaining. That would have been quite good, but it is what it is. And an advantage to that would have been if Natarajan did get injured, you don't lose out much batting in that number 8 as you would have done if you played a pure bowler, because you've got Wayne Parner with 8, you play Mayank Markande, you've still got batting down to late. So that's on them. They've still got a good side though, and I hope that I wouldn't start Abhishek Sharma on the side simply because everyone from Rahul Tripathi down would have to bat a lower position than what would there be optimized at, and I think for this kind of side that is not a great thing at all. Looks a good side there. I mean, Abdul Samad instead of Shashank Singh, let's see what he does. And that's on the side. I think that they've adhered to the blueprint that I thought they should adhere to in a general sense. Unfortunately, other sides that you've seen haven't done that. But you'll see haven't done that. Gujarat Titans. Now, in the potential 11, I think this is the exact same 11 I've gone for even after their auction. I thought with 19 crores, you go for starters. You really want Rasif Anderson at 2 crores. You could potentially have played, if you played Abhinav Manohar at 7 instead of Matthew Wade if you wanted to, and played Rasif Anderson at 3, you'd get that kick, that the pedigree, you'd really say, from an earlier stage. You got Fanderson at 3, and from that point onwards, you got Hardik Pandya, David Miller, Rahul Tewatia. Abhinav Manohar is no slouch himself, and then Rashid Khan. I mean, as good as Matthew Wade is at number 7, you'd think you've still got some options there as well. And that is something they could have done. And instead, if you're looking at the players I've listed here, they've bought none of these other signings that I think they could have made. Instead, they've bought these players. Now, no disrespect to Josh Little, but now it's great that players from Ireland, from Zimbabwe, now increasingly from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh both, I think they're available for the month of April, I think. It's good that they're getting deals, but someone like a Wayne Parner, with the improvement that he's shown, with his recent showing that he can bowl in Indian conditions, and I think at the start and at the death he'll be a very handy bowler, more than handy bowler. And I think, like I said before, with the ball, he will displace Alzari Joseph in the side, who, as much as he's improved ever since his recent IPL stint, is not at the level of other T20 bowlers, pedigree T20 bowlers, and I think that Wayne Parner would replace him in the side. You've got Wayne Parner, Mohammad Shami, Rashid Khan, the same team. It's fantastic with their current form. And you've got Josh Little, 4.4 crores. I'm not saying he's a bad bowler. I've heard good things about him. I've seen him bowl a few times, and he's got some gigs in other leagues around the world. But I just think, does his rise overshadow the overall improvement of Wayne Parnell? And also where they both are at as bowlers after their rises to this level. I think Wayne Parnell was still better than Josh Little. So for 3.75 crores less for someone who offers some kind of a batting option as well, I don't get why they didn't go for him. No disrespect to Josh Little, of course. going for a Dean Smith made no sense in my view. This is someone who you think he can offer something, and very soon it becomes the fact that he can't offer that. In my view, he's a comfort zone bowler when he bowls. You saw in that ODI series against India in early 2022, where I think the key was there was a tacky surface and he bowled on that back of a length, and the fact that it was a comfort zone because the bowlers were on top at that stage. And he kept on hitting that back of the length and making life unpleasant for the batsman. You saw against CSK, I think he got 1 for 14 in 2 overs, where they lost a flurry of wickets at the top when chasing that score, I think 180 something. And then Dean Smith got that 1 wicket where he bowled 2 overs where the pressure was on CSK from the other bowlers. Very much a comfort zone bowler, hitting that back of a length, and when he bats, I thought people got very carried away by 2 innings. Won the 24 of 22 against India in the second ODI, which even probably got him this much attention as an all-rounder, from the Indian public at least. And I think the 25 of 8 in the first game, as if they'd see that more often, when most people will, if you'd kind of studied the profile of player that he fits into right now, then you'd realise that wouldn't have been the case. So, I'm not surprised that most of the time he doesn't even get to 10 runs when he bats, and he gives at least 30 runs even if he bowls 3 overs. So, I just think that there's more kind of difficulty than good, and most of the time the difficulty does show up. So, I don't know why they bought him, to be honest. And I just think Shivam Mavi at 6 crores, I get you'd want that reputable Indian backup for Mohammad Shami, but at the same time you've got Pradeep Sangwan. Darshan Nalkandi hasn't shown too much, but he's there as well. And maybe releasing someone like a Vijay Shankar, I think he was bought for 1 crore or so. When you've got Uril Patel, who's been bought in this auction, KS Bharat, you've got Sai Sudarshan, why not? Just back the players you have. Because clearly, no matter where you play Vijay Shankar, he's not really going to do much. I don't know what he's done in domestic season recently. But when I've seen him play in the TNPO and in the previous IPO and in the other IPOs, he clearly hasn't done too much. Apart from maybe when in 2018 for Delhi, he played a few good innings, but that was about it. And I'm disappointed with this team because they haven't really pushed to get those, the players that they could have done, those starters. Instead, they just no one from there is good. Kane Williamson instead of Rasif Anderson. Seriously, the thing that I said where they could play Abhinav Manor at 7 and play Van der Dussen at 3. You're not going to do that with Kane Williamson. You're probably not even going to bother doing that with Kane Williamson unless things get really bad. So I think that, I just don't understand it. And I thought they maybe could have got one more standout Indian batsman. 4.45 crores remaining. You pay 75 lakh for Wayne Parnell. Why not a Mayank Agarwal if you could get him and you could just ice it and get him? Because you'd rather him even sitting on the bench for you. If he does sit on the bench for you, I think he could start in this team. You'd rather him sitting on the bench for you than playing every game for someone else, captaining the side and scoring a lot of runs. So that's on this team. It just shows that even their success was an accident. We looked at their squad and thought, I'm going to finish even in the top 5. And in the end, the careers of certain players are resurrected. And once again, it shows that same think tank, it is when you had the opportunity to set it in stone that you're already here to win in that trophy for the second season in a row. They have this kind of an auction. It just doesn't show well in them. Now the Lucknow Super Giants. I don't know how we're doing for time, but I think this is my 4th team that I'm reviewing. The Lucknow Super Giants, I just think that, with the auction that they've had, I thought they could buy these certain options. They had 4 overseas slots, and when Mark Wood does pull out, they'll have 5 overseas slots. So if effectively a player for 1 or 2 crores is unsold, they could even get, for outside the auction once Mark Wood pulls out. Maybe they could get Dushmanta Chameera since they've absurdly let him go. In the end, they bought 0 of these players, and not even Sam Curran. Instead, they've bought Nicholas Puran for 16 crores. They clearly don't understand how their team works. You can look at these signings here. They've replaced Dushmanta Chameera with Naveen ul Haq, and they've got Daniel Sams and Romario Shepherd, maybe to increase batting depth, but is that really the priority? You could have got someone like a Wayne Parnell. It just doesn't make much sense in my view. I just think, yes, the batting depth, they would have liked to increase it. But apart from when they paid Krishnappa Gautam, they weren't getting too much of that at that number 8 slot. But The reason why I'm saying they don't understand how this side works is because I said in my previous video a lot of times where you can never have too many bowling options in the side. At the death, they didn't use Marcus Stoinis, Jason Horner too well last season. Jason Horner bowled at the death a few times. Marcus Stoinis rarely was used. You've got Mohsin Khan, who was a revelation last season. You've got Avesh Khan, Marcus Stoinis, a mixture of Jason Horner and those other bowlers at the death. You can never quite have too many options in the side, like I've said, and you saw last season why that was. And I think that in the end they managed okay because they had those options. Now what they've done here is they've got Nicholas Puran for 16 crores, but the reality is if you're comparing with what Jason Horner did in the previous season, I actually think he's got 58 runs in 9 innings, where combination of not being used properly, walking out a bit too late, and the other times was where even when he walked out, he didn't really do too much. I think Sam Curran, unless he has an absolutely terrible season, he will score more runs than that, and probably will have more impact with the ball. So you could play him at 6, play Chrono Pandya at 7, and you could have bought Wayne Parnell for the 75 luck. You'd have more batting depth, slightly more than you did previously. You could just play him there, why not? And at the death, you've got Sam Curran, Wayne Parnell, Marcus Stoinis, Mohsin Khan, Avesh Khan. And you got the spinners and Chrono Pandya, Ravi Bishnoi, Ayush Badani can bowl it, as can Deepak Hooda. Apart from the openers, every player, you got 9 bowling options there in that side. Had you bought Sam Curran, which they could have done, they had 23 something crores, and bought the other players intelligently. Instead, what they've done is they've not got that new ball threat along with Mohsin Khan in Dushmanta Chamera, who was vital for them last season up front. They've shot themselves in the foot again because they've replaced Jason Horner with someone who doesn't bowl. So you've got not another new ball threat, and you've replaced the new ball threat with Romario Shepherd, which I just think is ridiculous if you're looking for him to bowl up front rather than Chamira. And then you've replaced Holder with a guy that doesn't bowl. And for 16 crores, what if he doesn't do anything? Then this batting lineup has to play out of their skin to give their bowlers the cushion, because who's going to bowl at the death? Well, you got Mohsin Khan. Avesh Khan is out of form ever since the last IPO. Romario Shepherd gives a lot of runs most occasions. Marcus Stoinis probably has to bowl the death alongside Mohsin Khan, and whatever Avesh Khan does, he does. And on Jaydev Unadkat, people are saying, can he bowl his slower balls? I'm saying don't bowl your slower balls, because the last time he had a good IPL season was in 2017, where he bowled in the low 140s, and him and other key players with a bat like Steve Smith meant that a rising Pune Super Giant who had an underwhelming season the previous year got to the finals in 2017, and he actually got an India call-up, not in the 2018 South Africa tour in that January after that IPL season. And ever since then, he becomes some slower ball bowler, has had terrible seasons in everyone since then, and I just think when you bowl in the domestic circuit, you don't bowl slow balls, you look to swing the ball up front, and that's why you're in the test side against Bangladesh. So I just think that bow to your strengths, do what he did in 2017 and you'll reap the rewards. But as long as he does this whole slow ball thing, I just think the trajectory in T20 cricket will just keep on going further down. And that's on that. I don't understand, to be honest. I mean, I would have Mark Wood will pull out, so they have to get Dushmanta Chamira, so Wayne Parnell I think they could get in as a more complete bowler in terms of the death as well. But not getting Sam Curran was a huge miss, and their bowling looks a bit ropey this season, and I think they'll see the effects of that. Finally, the Royal Challengers Bangalore. I thought they could have got Sikandar Razak. Because you don't know what Glenn Maxwell's going to do. They got Will Jackson instead for slightly more than what they would like to pay for him. They could have even got him for 60-70 lakh if they'd gone to bidding competition with the Punjab Kings. And they couldn't really, but they only had 2 overseas players left, I think. And even in you've got Reece Topley there as well, but even in this side, I thought that in the end they haven't got, because of the purse they had, they couldn't get other players to start ahead of the players that got in. Now, I've got a theory, which it would have been a brave call, but like I said in my previous video, you don't know what Virat Kohli is going to do, yes, but the only reason why you're keeping him there then is because he's Virat Kohli, and he's on 15 crores. He's not the captain anymore. Mayank Agarwal has gone for effectively half that. So if I was them, I would have, it gives you another captaincy option as well, potentially. Imagine Faf du Plessis, Mayank Agarwal, Rajat Patidar, and if Glenn Maxwell doesn't do anything, then you've got Sikandar Raza as well if they had bought him. So I don't. Apart from that, I think it would have been good if they got Mayank Agarwal, that other standout Indian batsman. They've got Suyash Prabhu, they say as well, so they could still play him ahead of Virat Kohli if he doesn't do much. And I think that had to be said because in T20s now you don't know what he's going to do, and just because he is Virat Kohli, as much as he's my favorite batsman, I think that you have to look at the team holistically. And that's for them, maybe a controversial opinion for some, but in my view, it's a very obvious view. 8.75 plus 15 is 23 points. They would have an LSG budget to improve their team even more, and they would have really enjoyed that. And yeah, that's on the first 5 teams. And as you can see, I'm not too impressed with quite a few of them in general. I just think that apart from SRH, no one, maybe CSK relatively to the others, no one has really done too much. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how the season will go because I think the tactical nous, and especially some of the other teams that I cover in the second half, I just think have not done well at all. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, please share it with a friend. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?